The problem isn't that we say the wrong things. The problem is that we don't live by the things that we say. Is that true? Yeah. Is it funny though? Kind of. Because what's so funny? Everything. If you can look at it just the right way, what is the point in celebrating my time in hell? Because there are points in both of those. They're not to be rejected flatly because lots of people obviously choose to live one of those two ways. And whether or not you live in heaven or hell largely depends on how you choose to perceive the world. Whether or not you live in heaven or hell, it largely depends on how you conduct yourself, really. Do you conduct yourself well? Do you conduct yourself badly? Because there's no situation, even hell, that can't be made worse by us asking the question, could this possibly be any worse? Never ask that question, because if you ask that question, you're going to get an answer. And the answer is always yes. Things can always get worse. But that's a good thing, because that seems to suggest that therefore things can get better. But the way that things get better, kind of shaping how it is that we see the world that we live in. It's the ultimate statistic. You can look this up. I'm not lying to you. 10 out of 10 people die. Never been an example of someone who didn't. Every one of us was born. We all have those two things in common. We've all been born, and we're all going to die. It's what we do in between those two moments that define us as a person. How many of us believe that? Like, we're here anyway. We might as well make the most of it. I know, by the way, I know that none of you, I'm sorry, none of you, sorry, I shouldn't say that. I know that very few of you believe it. I look at the grades in this class. It's the same principle. You're here anyway. You're in class anyway. You might as well get something out of it. Might as well make the most out of it. Oh, but that's different. Because that's the thing that's like right now that I actually could make a difference on every single day. The problem isn't that we say the wrong things. The problem is that we don't live by the things that we say. We don't practice what we preach. And of course, there are some people who, well, I'll say that there are some people who don't preach what they practice, but largely we don't practice what we preach. We all kind of intuitively know that that is the best way to live, because we ask that question, by the way, what's the point in kind of like, what's the point in living in demoralized? Well, the point of it is that it's reality. Asking the question, what's the point in living in reality, it's a weird question. You could live some other life that doesn't really reflect that, but then again, you're going against the universe. We should be careful when we ask questions like that. Like, what's the point in this? What's the point in that? There are answers to those questions. Perhaps the real question is, what is the point in living demoralized? Or what is the point in celebrating my time in hell? Because there are points in both of those. They're not to be rejected flatly because lots of people obviously choose to live one of those two ways. And whether or not you live in heaven or hell largely depends on how you choose to perceive the world. Whether or not you live in heaven or hell, it largely depends on how you conduct yourself, really. Do you conduct yourself well? Do you conduct yourself badly? Because there's no situation, even hell, that can't be made worse by us asking the question, could this possibly be any worse? Could things possibly get any worse? Never ask that question, because if you ask that question, you're going to get an answer. And the answer is always yes. Things can always get worse. But that's a good thing, because that seems to suggest that therefore things can get better. But the way that things get better is by kind of shaping how it is that we see the world that we live in. Is it true that there's an eternal nightmare? If we look forward into the future is a dystopian nightmare? Yeah. What's the alternative? Well, we could live in hell, but they're kind of the same thing. They're both eternal. The difference is that some people recognize this, and they wear all black, and they fold their arms, they scratch their chins, and they say the world is such a terrible place. The universe is so chaotic. There's going to be a heat death, and eventually we're all going to burn out and die like we never existed. Is that true? Yeah. Is it funny though? Kind of. Because what's so funny? Everything. If you can look at it just the right way. That's part of dark humor. Dark humor is to be able to is not making fun. A lot of people, like to clutch their pearls and, oh my gosh, you're telling a dark humor joke. That's so terrible. You're making fun of people. It's not making fun of anyone. It's laughing about situations. It's laughing about people. Because the situation that we're in is so dire. It's the ultimate statistic. You can look this up. I'm not lying to you. 10 out of 10 people die. Never been an example of someone who didn't. Every one of us was born. We all have those two things in common. We've all been born, and we're all going to die. It's what we do in between those two moments that define us as a person. It doesn't define our character, by the way. It just shows it. It demonstrates it. And this is a decision that we have to make every moment of every day. Which of these two things are we? Are we going to be demoralized? To be demoralized means to kind of give up and just, kind of trudge through life and just no motivation. Like, man, what's the point in any of this? Or are we going to be the losers who are celebrating? Not celebrating necessarily that we are in a hell, but we can celebrate while we're in a hell. And by the way, you're going to find, if you let yourself, that humor is one of the absolute best ways to get through a negative situation. Anybody ever heard of David Goggins before? Anybody know who David Goggins is? You should look up David Goggins. David Goggins is a guy, he's the only person in American history to go through selection for 3 different special forces. He went through Air Force Search and Rescue, he was a Navy SEAL, and he went and Rangers as well. He's the only guy to ever do this. But his story about how he did it is incredible. He was overweight, he was working in pest control, and he saw a commercial on television for Navy SEALs, and he thought, I want to do that. So he said, I'm gonna get myself in shape. So he goes out, and he says he runs his first quarter mile, and just says, screw this is too hard, and he quits. About a year or two later, I think it was 2 years later, he sees where his life is. He's in he's like crawling through spaces at night, spraying for bugs. He realizes that his future is going to be like, cancer, and he's never going to really provide for himself, in any meaningful way. So while he's in the middle of a job at night, he just quits. He leaves his stuff inside of the business that he's fumigating and calls his boss from a phone outside and just says, I can't do this anymore. I got to get my future straight. So he goes home and he starts training because he wants to become a Navy SEAL. He just starts running, jogging. The guy can't do it, by the way. He has a heart murmur, he has a heart condition. So his heart won't allow him to do this. He also has negative buoyancy, his bones. Most people have positive buoyancy, which means that when you're in water, you float. He has negative buoyancy. He sinks in water. Some people do this. So this guy has everything in the world against him. But he perseveres. You can see interviews with him today. He does he does ultra marathons. I did a half marathon last weekend, and people were like, oh my God, it's crazy. It's 13.1 miles. How can you do that? I've done a full marathon before too, 26.2 miles. And you're like, oh, wow, that's impressive. Not really. David Goggins does ultra marathons. Those are like 120-mile marathons, 200-mile marathons. The first time he ever did one, he's married to a physician, a doctor. He was out running one, and he didn't train for it. He just said, I'm a Navy SEAL, I'm hardcore, I can do this. So he goes down, he does it, and his body starts shutting down at one point. He starts peeing down his leg, can't control his bladder. And when he finally looks down, he realizes that's not pee, he's peeing blood. There's blood coming down his leg. And his wife comes over and she says, yeah, your kidneys are shutting down. You have to go to the hospital right now, this is life-threatening. And he says, I hear you, I'm going to the hospital as soon as I finish this race. And he does another 40 miles or something like that after that. And then he goes to the hospital, gets everything done, and now he does these things for fun. He's such a hardcore dude. How about this? He won't even listen to music while he's training or while he's running. He thinks that listening to music is cheating. Yeah, you go to the gym or whatever, you go run, you put on your music and your pump up music. He says, no, that's cheating. Your motivation has to come from inside. It can't come from music. And he does these motivational things on Instagram. He's one guy I would never want to have dinner with, really. He's just too much, man. If you ever watch interviews with him, he's just too far over the top. But he was talking about how it is that you get through the selection for those different special forces. It was something that I have found, by the way, the same exact thing in my life. And I just heard his interview maybe 2 years ago or so. And he was saying that what you do is you make everything into a game, into a joke. Sorry. So he explained that the way that you get through selection is that you make everything into a joke. Everything is humor. They give you these impossible tasks. Like they'll give you like 2 tires, a stick, 200-pound cinder blocks, like a bunch of like weird stuff, and then they'll say, we need you to transport this 20 miles over there as a team. And the whole point of it is to break you down, to make it so that everyone starts fighting, because everybody's got their own idea of how it should be done. What they want to do is see how all these different personalities can come together and work together as a team. And so he said that his group, they made everything into a joke, into it being funny, because you realize it's gonna suck. And that's actually Goggins' slogan, embrace the suck. You know it's gonna suck, whatever it is. If you're gonna go run a marathon, it's gonna suck. Embrace it. I was out there last weekend, and it's only 13 miles. It's not that big of a deal. I don't even train for it. I just wake up and I'm like, I'm gonna go do this thing today. And why do I do it? You gotta embrace the suck once in a while, man. You have to go out there and push yourself and do something that no sane person is going to do. But what would a sane person do in a society such as ours? Sit on the couch, watch a lot of Netflix, cover ourselves in Cheeto dust. To do something heroic or to do something admirable with your life today is almost the insane thing. To kind of shut off all the comforts of life and to live, just with yourself through hardship and difficulty, and to intentionally embrace hardship and difficulty, to challenge yourself and make yourself stronger, that's insanity in our present world. But that's how you do it. You embrace the suck, man. And there are a lot of things in your life that are going to be like that. Like, you're in a class that you hate. Is it boring? Yeah. I got news for you, man. All the love in the world, get over it. The purpose of school is not to entertain you. We have this idea in our minds that everything in life is supposed to excite and entertain us. That should tell us how incredibly goddamn selfish we are. And we think that the purpose of the world and everything in it is to entertain us. And if it doesn't entertain us, then it doesn't deserve our attention. The most important things in your life are not going to be entertaining. They're going to be the opposite of that. The things that grow you as a human being are not going to be entertaining. The death of a loved one, which can grow your character incredibly, is not going to be entertaining, probably, unless you killed them, of course. The classes that we're going to give you the information that you're going to hopefully learn how to use in your real life to make your life better. It might not be entertaining. Some classes will be, of course. Some events in your life will be, but for the most part, no, not necessarily. But we're so selfish, we're so sheltered, we're so privileged that we feel like all of life's purpose is to be entertaining. But think about that. What does entertainment do except for take you away from real life? I think we talked about this before. That the whole purpose of entertainment is to pull you away from real life, the life that you're living. Too often we look at this like a finger wagging thing, like, you need to stop being so selfish. You need to, seriously though, you need to stop being so selfish. It isn't, you need to stop living through that privilege because it's so alluring. It's so seducing. It's so easy. Well, I could go push myself and get myself into shape, but it's kind of cold out there and it's warm in here, and I've got this entertainment thing in my hand where I can get 30-second videos that will entertain me and make me laugh. And all of a sudden, oh my God, where'd all the time go? Be careful, because you're gonna be 50 years old and you're gonna ask yourself, where did all the time go? Where did all my talents go? Where did all my opportunities go? Where did all of the way I could have been go? No, well, maybe there's a next world which I can exercise those things. The demoralized person is the one who says, there's no point in getting better. There's no point in challenging myself. There's no point in trying to become what I could become because shoulder shrug, who cares anyway? Oh, the world is against me anyway, or the world is so difficult. When I hear yesterday that Gen Z is swearing off having children, and the number one reason is because of the economy, it's like, how stupid are you to think that way? I shouldn't say stupid. How ignorant are you to think that way? You have to realize that economies do this. They're always up and down. Your parents, your grandparents, your great-grandparents, your great-great-grandparents, your great-great-great-grandparents, every person in your generation for going back thousands of years have struggled through difficult economies to bring you here where you are right now. Are you saying that you're even though you're supposed to be the pinnacle of your family line because you are the best evolved of all of them, you're the one person who can't deal with the economy? Wow. You, therefore, are demoralized. You're showing the way to a future of eternal nightmare. You're embracing it and just, oh well, nothing I can do. Versus at least celebrating your moment in hell. Yeah, we're here. Yeah, it sucks, but embrace it. Embrace the suck. Because what's the alternative? You know what it is. So, questions, comments, concerns, complaints, criticisms, critiques? I'll say it anyway. Happy Friday. Try to turn it and make it more positive.